You, a janitor? Don't touch that report! The senior manager's voice cracked with disdain as the room erupted in laughter. But within seconds, her quiet correction would silence every executive, and even the CEO would rise to his feet. Angela Price had learned long ago that invisibility could be both a curse and a shield. She was a single mother in her early 40s, working nights as a janitor at Lexington Technologies, one of the most prestigious software firms in the country. By day, she was the mother of 12-year-old Maya, a bright girl who often asked, "Mama, why don't they see how smart you are?" Angela would just smile and say, "Sometimes, baby, people only see what they want to see." The boardroom of Lexington Technologies gleamed like a temple of power. Polished oak tables stretched across. The space, framed by towering glass windows with a panoramic view of the city skyline. Angela was used to pushing her cleaning cart through those intimidating halls after midnight when the executives had gone home. But that morning, a critical meeting ran late. The air crackled with tension, voices rising as executives debated a looming crisis. Angela tried to keep her head down, mop in hand, quietly tidying the edges of the room. She knew better than to interrupt. These weren't her battles. Yet every word the executives threw at each other echoed in her mind like puzzle pieces falling into place. Lexington Technologies was facing a catastrophe, a $500 million software failure that threatened to destroy partnerships, sink investor trust, and possibly cost thousands of jobs. "We've lost months of work. The algorithm doesn't hold under live conditions," barked Mr. Carter, the senior vice president. Papers flew, voices clashed, and desperation filled the air. Angela paused. She had spent nights secretly reading the abandoned reports she found, in recycling. She'd studied technical notes while scrubbing floors, traced data diagrams as if they were riddles, and cross-checked equations in discarded drafts just for fun. Problem-solving soothed her, a quiet rebellion against the life others thought she was stuck in. And now, as the executives bickered, she noticed the glaring mistake. "Excuse me?" Her voice was timid, almost drowned by the storm of arguments. The room froze. Every head turned toward her. Mr. Carter sneered. "What did you say?" Angela swallowed, but her voice steadied. "You're running the model with the wrong baseline input. The predictive loop is chasing corrupted data, not the actual source. That's why it fails." A burst of laughter erupted. One manager muttered, "Is she serious?" Another chuckled, "Stick to the mops, sweetheart." Angela felt the sting, her knuckles tightening around the handle of her mop. But she didn't flinch. "Check cell C42 in the master file. You'll see the duplicate variable causing the recursion. Fix that, and your system will stabilize." The silence that followed was razor-sharp. One of the junior analysts hesitated, curiosity piqued. He typed rapidly on his laptop, his eyes widening. "She's right," he whispered. Then louder, almost disbelieving, "She's absolutely right!" Gasps filled the room. Papers shuffled. Executives leaned forward in disbelief. Mr. Carter's face turned crimson, his authority slipping through his fingers. Angela stood quietly, her heart pounding. She hadn't meant to embarrass anyone, but the truth was undeniable. In seconds, she had solved the $500 million problem that the so-called brightest minds of Lexington couldn't untangle in weeks. The CEO, Richard Langford, who had sat silently observing the chaos, suddenly pushed his chair back. The sound echoed like thunder. Slowly, he rose to his feet, his piercing gaze fixed on Angela. The entire room hushed, waiting for his reaction. "Everyone, out," Langford commanded, his voice low but firm. The executives hesitated, shocked, but his tone brooked no argument. Chairs scraped as the room emptied, leaving only Angela, clutching her mop like a shield. Her breath caught. Had she crossed a line? Would she be fired for daring to speak? Langford approached, his eyes studying her not with ridicule but with Something sharper. Recognition. You just did what my entire executive team couldn't, he said. Who are you, really? Angela lowered her gaze. I'm just the janitor, sir. A slow smile spread across his face. Not anymore. But Angela's moment of revelation had only begun. Outside the boardroom, whispers spread like wildfire. A janitor had corrected the executives. A single mother had saved the company from disaster. Some were impressed, others furious, and a storm was brewing that would test Angela's courage more than she could have imagined, because not everyone wanted her brilliance to be seen. The moment the heavy oak doors shut behind the departing executives, Angela felt the weight of 100 invisible eyes pressing against her. She stood frozen, clutching her mop handle, the smell of disinfectant faint in the charged air. CEO Richard Langford studied her carefully. His reputation in the industry was legendary, a man who could spot raw genius in a room full of polished resume. Angela Price, he repeated softly, having glanced at her badge. You may think you're just a janitor, but you just saved this company from collapse. Angela's lips parted, but before she could answer, the door burst open. Mr. Carter stormed back inside, his face burning with humiliation. This is absurd, he spat. We're trusting our future to her? She cleans our floors. Langford's gaze hardened, but Angela spoke first. Her voice was calm, steady, a steel edge beneath her humility. With respect, Mr. Carter, I don't clean floors because I lack knowledge. I clean floors because I need to feed my daughter. But knowledge doesn't disappear just because people don't expect to see it. The words hit the room like a gavel. Carter's jaw clenched. His pride, shredded in front of his peers, demanded vengeance. Over the next week, Angela became both a legend and a target. Whispers followed her through the corridors. Junior staff looked at her with admiration. Some even asked her questions about systems and coding. But others, especially the executives she had embarrassed, spread venomous rumors. They claimed she must have stolen confidential information, or perhaps she'd gotten lucky. Carter, in particular, launched a quiet campaign to discredit her, determined to protect his status. Angela, meanwhile, was invited back to the boardroom. Langford insisted she attend strategy sessions, where her insights cut through tangled discussions with startling clarity. At first, her presence was met with silence and sneers. Yet time and again, she pointed out flaws no one else noticed, and solutions that saved weeks of work. The team could no longer deny her brilliance, though some still resented it. But Carter was relentless. One afternoon, during a critical investor presentation rehearsal, he cornered Angela in front of the entire leadership team. Tell me, Angela, he sneered, waving a technical report. Since you're apparently a genius, why don't you explain this sequence? Or is your trick just memorizing one error? Angela felt every gaze burning into her. Her chest tightened, the familiar sting of being underestimated clawing at her spirit. For a moment, doubt whispered, what if they're right? What if this was a mistake? Then she thought of Maya, her daughter, who believed her mother could move mountains. Angela straightened her back. Gladly, she said. She walked to the screen, scanned the data once, and with calm precision, explained not only the error, but also how the sequence could be restructured to increase efficiency by 22%. A stunned silence followed. Then the CEO clapped once, sharp and decisive. Brilliant, he declared. Carter's face drained of color. But Angela's challenges weren't just in the boardroom. At home, Maya noticed the change, too. Her mother came home later, often exhausted, yet her eyes glowed with a light Maya had never seen before. One night, as Angela tucked her in, Maya whispered, Mama, are they finally seeing you the way I do? Angela's heart ached with love. They're beginning to, baby. They're beginning to. The tipping point came during a live investor meeting. The company's future hinged on Angela's corrections. Carter, desperate to protect his pride, deliberately reintroduced the corrupted baseline into the demo, hoping to watch Angela fail, in front of everyone. As the screens flickered and panic stirred, Angela leaned forward. She recognized the sabotage instantly. For a split second, fear froze her. But then a calm certainty filled her veins. She swiftly corrected the variable on the spot, narrating her steps clearly so every investor could see the truth. The system stabilized. Investors broke into applause. Langford rose once more, pride blazing in his eyes, and this time he didn't just stand. He extended his hand to Angela, pulling her forward to stand beside him. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "the reason Lexington Technologies still stands today is because of Angela Price, not an executive, not a consultant, but a woman whose brilliance we overlooked because she carried a mop instead of a briefcase." The room erupted in a standing ovation. Cameras flashed. Carter shrank into his chair, his schemes exposed. By the next morning, he was quietly removed from his position. Angela, however, was offered a new role, Director of Systems Integrity, with a salary that would secure Maya's future and then some. She hesitated at first, unsure if she belonged, but Langford looked her in the eye and said, "Angela, you've belonged here longer than any of us realized." Weeks later, Angela walked through those same gleaming halls, no longer pushing a mop but carrying files and ideas. Her colleagues, once dismissive, now greeted her with respect. She remained humble, never forgetting the late nights when her only company was a mop bucket and her dreams. At home, Maya's eyes shone with pride as she hugged her mother tight. "See, Mama, I told you they'd see you." Angela smiled through tears. "Yes, baby, and now they'll never forget." Her journey had begun in silence and shadows, but it ended with her voice echoing through boardrooms and her name etched into the company's history. Angela Price, the single mother janitor who solved a $500 million problem in seconds, had shown the world that genius knows no uniform, and brilliance has no boundaries. And for everyone who had ever been overlooked, dismissed, or underestimated, her story carried a message that rang louder than any applause. Sometimes the greatest minds are hidden in plain sight, waiting for the moment the world finally chooses to listen.